It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at CrainTeam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, it's time to talk about coaching search, obviously. That time of year, things are ramping up a little bit more lately, and we'll talk about some of the things that are going on, and we're going to talk about the LSU game a little bit, some of the things that went wrong there for Arkansas. Look ahead to Texas. We're going to talk to Connor Goodson about the Arkansas basketball program, take your questions as well, and probably have a little fun with some other stuff also. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every budget and every lifestyle. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at CrainTeam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit CrainTeam.com.
Couple of news items to get to real quick. Kickoff time announced for Arkansas, Texas. That'll be at 2:30. This was just announced today. That game is going to be on ESPN. Of course, we know next week now. Was that announced today? I think it was. So it was a kind of a late announcement. We know also the Missouri, that might have been announced yesterday, but the Missouri Arkansas game, that was announced today, and that will also be at 2:30. That'll be on SEC Network. So a couple 2:30 games to round things out for Arkansas football. Spoke with Bobby Petrino today. We'll play a little bit of a clip of what he said. Arkansas basketball with a pretty disappointing performance against Samford. It was a win, 79-75, but just not getting what they want inside. We'll talk to Connor Goodson a little bit about that. They'll have a game again on Tuesday, November 18th. That is at 7 o'clock on SEC Network Plus. And then they have a Jackson State matchup on Friday, November 21st, also 7 o'clock SEC Network Plus, before the big Thanksgiving Day matchup against the Duke Blue Devils in Chicago, 7 o'clock CBS. So a couple of games to get things figured out a little bit before a big matchup against Duke. Arkansas still setting official visits with players. Players are coming in the Missouri weekend. Danny's got a list of a couple of guys coming in. So that's still happening. Bobby Petrino's still out recruiting, planning, I guess, for the future with this team. Although it seems like obviously a long shot now that Bobby Petrino would be coach. I mean, when you look at some of the things, how they've played out, and guys, like I'm always going to have fond memories of Petrino. I think it's a long shot. Arkansas is 19.5-point underdogs, according to Bet Saracen, for this game. It's always going to be a long shot for Petrino to get this job. But I always feel like, I'm going to remember Bobby Petrino in a positive light. Tough to beat Texas on Saturday. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the trend is that they play just below whoever they play. I mean, it's bizarre how many close losses they've lost. And I said in the walk and talk the other day that accidentally, or like the other team should have screwed up at some point. The other team should have messed up somewhere. Statistically, it feels like that should have happened, and it hasn't. They just keep losing close games. But, man, it would be nice to send Petrino out with a win against Missouri in the final game of the season. But let's look at how this season has played out for Arkansas. I mean, after the Alabama A&M game, the Arkansas State game, we're feeling really good. Ole Miss marching down the field with a chance to go ahead, like time is expiring, and a chance to score the go-ahead touchdown, down 6, 41-35, and they fumbled the ball away. The defense wasn't great, but they did some things that gave you a chance here towards the end of that game. Memphis in the low red zone, going down, driving to score the go-ahead touchdown. You're down 32-31, and you fumbled the ball away the very next week. Again, playing down to your opponent. Memphis is not as good as Ole Miss is. You played down to Memphis, and then you had to put yourself in a situation where you had to win the game at the end. Obviously, Notre Dame was what it was. That's the psyche. Something with Sam Pittman putting so much pressure on himself to win a home game because they've been so bad at home, and they get their doors blown off, and he gets fired, of course. The next week, Tennessee, you had 3 turnovers on offense to none for Tennessee. I mean, that's basically what that game came down to. But that provided some inspiration, I think, for Hog fans, even though it was still a close loss. Texas A&M game, you didn't score fast enough. You ran out of time, basically had to kick an onside, but you lost that 45-42. There are 5 games by a combined 11 points that you lost this year, not including a 6-point loss to Ole Miss or a 9-point loss to Auburn, which 4 turnovers. 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter in the final, 9:04 of that game. You had a lead against Auburn in the fourth quarter, and you turned the ball over 4 times. End up losing by 9. Field goal after field goal after field goal. So again, offense. The Mississippi State game, Mississippi State, obviously they marched down and converted 2 4th downs. That was a little bit more defensive issues. Not that there weren't offensive issues, and 18 penalties total in that game. It's just like I'm running out of ways to bitch about how they lose these games on these walk and talks. The Tennessee game was a classic example of not being able to get the ball back for the offense. Like, they just ran the ball because Arkansas couldn't stop them. They just, we're just going to run it, take the clock down. That's what they did. So that has happened to them sometimes. This is what happened against LSU also. The same thing that happened in the Tennessee game happened against LSU. Arkansas squandered way too many opportunities, not putting it in on 4th and 1. I mean, what if they'd kicked field goal there? But not punching it in on 4th and 1. They also lost 3 points. Like, this is so Arkansas. Like, LSU's lining up to go for it. And what did they have, a false start or something? Arkansas stuffs them. I can't remember exactly what happened, but Arkansas stuffs them. They don't convert, but they get a false start, so there's no play. And so they end up kicking a field goal. It cost Arkansas 3 points because LSU screwed up. But, giving up that 2nd and 16, it's a 30-yard run, just not able to stop those guys at the end of the game when you had to get the ball back. But Arkansas also, I mean, this was kind of a joint effort. Arkansas had 3 turnovers in this game. LSU had none, even though you blocked a punt. And plus you had a turnover at the goal line, turnover on downs, So missed that field goal. There, everybody kind of contributed to this loss, but 23 points, you'd figure that Arkansas offense should be able to win that game, but just keeps coming up with new ways. I have no doubt that they'll play Texas fairly tough, even though 19.5 point underdog, because they play right below the opponent. At least that's how they've been. I mean, there's always a chance that they could just kind of let go of things at this point. That's just how it's been. Hey, by the way, I want to mention real quick, it's 75% off at HawgSports. Excuse me, not 70. We're not doing the 75% off. We flipped it. We're doing 2 months for $1 right now, which is also a heck of a deal. We did the 75% off deal. Everybody had an opportunity to join at that. So here's another way to join for those maybe aren't interested in a long-term commitment. You just want to take me out on a date. Then we can go out on a date for 2 months for $1. I'm a cheap date. I'm a cheap date, guys. Like, you can take me out for 2 months for just $1. Try us out at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. If you like what we do here, you want to support us, please check us out at HawgSports. Just sign up for the monthly option. You'll get the deal. We just went live on that today, just now, like a few minutes ago. So that is live. I'd like to tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers also. Walker Brothers, this segment right here is brought to you by this Johnny O quarter zip that I got at Walker Brothers. It's really great for golf. It's got a good feel. Good material, good sturdy, but lightweight, perfect for this kind of weather if you like golfing or for anything. But Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last. That's the important part, carefully selected to last. I've got stuff in my closet from Walker Brothers that I've had for years, and they look brand new because they pick quality clothing. But to help you look your best, from your game day experience to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville or at their brand new store in Rogers. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you got something, you look good, got a little confidence, a little extra swagger. Make sure you look good. You owe it to yourself. Check out our buddies over at Walker Brothers. Okay. Let's play Bobby Petrino today. I thought he had some pretty interesting comments. So this is not a steady dose of Bobby Petrino. It's just cut up. So there's a bunch of different cuts in here. So it's just kind of the best of. This is about a minute, 52 seconds here.
We're just in way too many negative situations behind the chains, and that's not what we normally have done offensively. That really caught up to us. The one that's really disappointing to me on Talon is that when you come out and the tight end's number one in the progression and he's wide open and we didn't throw him the ball.
I'm wondering about KJ Jackson. Is he a guy you might want to try to get some looks at the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, you do think about it and talk about it and do that, but I think we're just going to see how practice plays out and, play whoever we feel has the best chance to let us win. He's got to get rid of the interceptions, the unforced ones, which I felt both of them were unforced the other day. And, you're going to throw interceptions at a quarterback at times, but those two should not have been.
Expectation for
Charlie,
Texas.
I think, is going to be good this week. Braylon's was weird. He ran into our fullback, and when he was out for the game with the concussion protocol. There's no reason to stop now. We might as well continue what we're doing and continue competing hard. And it's kind of a really weird anomaly, I guess you would say, that we do this deal where offensive, defensive team wins. 4 of those games should have been wins from that sheet, and then they're not, but that's an outlier. Every one of them is an outlier. What the heck? We're going to have to protect the quarterback. Make sure we don't give up big plays on screens. We got to make sure that we're disciplined with our eyes. Yeah, we talked about it last night, and in the team meeting, obviously. But we're going to do some things to make sure they understand it, because it's always been a big deal. I remember the first time I was here, it was always a big deal about the Arkansas-Texas rivalry and the big games. So we're going to try to put a few things together for them, make sure they understand it, and know how important it is to the state of Arkansas.
What are they going to put together? How are they going to let them know? They're going to show them old videos and stuff like that. Maybe they have something put together already. I don't know. I don't know how you do that with that. Or maybe you have some old fans come up and say, "Hey, look, this is why we hate Texas so much." I thought about putting Saxit, just writing it backwards on the thumbnail today for the day's show. Again, looking back at that LSU game, it's just disappointing the offense played the way they did. It's just like they do just enough to not win. I really think, and I mentioned this on Saturday, I really think there's something in their head or something lacking in their head. And I was talking with Basil after the game, and we were just talking about, I just think about guys like Trey Flowers and Martrell Spate and Tyler Wilson and, some of the guys that used to just – there was an attitude that, you weren't going to look like whatever it takes. And I've been watching the America's Team thing, with, Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and Emmett Smith, those guys all talking about just, playing through pain and toughness and refusing to lose, just having a mentality that you're going to go out and make a play and damn it, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to allow this to happen. We're going to stop these guys. Somebody's going to make a play. It's time to step up and get this done. And, not just getting in people's ass about it, but just firing people up. And I don't know. I see it lacking a little bit. I'm watching the guys on the sideline as the game is ending and it's over. It's going to be over. And I'm watching them. I want to see if anybody's smiling or laughing or anything. And I don't see that. I see guys, kind of with their head hung, disappointed, upset, obviously. As I'm watching, I kind of pan over and there's this LSU fan, kind of guy that like you're probably better than, like just nose first, sloth, just cussing that bench, the Arkansas bench. He's walking behind the things like, "You losers, you suck, you never win a game in the SEC, you're terrible," cussing. Just letting them have it behind there. And then he kind of walks off, just like sloppy, gross looking. And he's like, gives a little shout out to Jesus, God, points up. Like, I'm just thinking, man, what a turd. What a loser. It frustrates you that somebody like that is taking joy. But everything's frustrating about Arkansas football. It just is. Like, it sucks where they are right now. Let's talk a little bit about where they might be going. Okay. I don't know what the last thing I talked about. There's so much stuff that comes out every day. We do Friday morning coaching search intel was a big bunch of information. I put out some more stuff this morning. The last stuff, and I've talked about this, and I don't want to give away everything that we put on the site, but I usually will give away stuff from a good bit earlier. But the latest stuff that's pretty hard, solid information is what Hunter Yurachek has been telling boosters. And I talked about it a little bit on the walk and talk, but if you didn't get that, he's saying, they're down to about 8 people. He's leaning towards a more defensive-minded coach and pairing him with a really good offensive coordinator. They want to get this done before the dominoes and the craziness ensues, because there could be a couple more SEC jobs open up. Ole Miss, Missouri, who knows where else. Some other big-time jobs could open up, like Florida State. They want to get their guy on board, everything done before. There's another person that I talked to who operates outside the program that has really been around the block and knows how these things work. And I think I mentioned on maybe the last show that he had detected a shift with the athletic department. And guys, I can't tell you what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you because I don't want to expose anything in this regard. But if I told you, you'd be like, oh, well, that makes total sense. But, this is an assumption, an educated guess from him of sorts based on some things that had happened. Well, I talked to him this morning, and that shift kind of goes more in line with what Hunter Yurachek was telling boosters on Friday. Now, Hunter Yurachek, I'm just saying this is what he's saying. He may have his guy. He may not be looking at a defensive-minded coach. He may be down to fewer than 8. I mean, I know that there are coaches still being interviewed as of last week. I know that. Not Ed Orgeron, not going to be Ed Orgeron. But anyway, talking with him this morning, he's more like there's a definite shift back. It's whatever happened. I don't know why my nose keeps itching, but this side of my nose, whenever I do this show lately, it just starts itching. But he says that it has shifted back to what it was before. Like, it's hard for me to explain it without just like telling you guys, but the vibe was one thing and now it's another thing. And he thinks that they may have had their guy and now they don't. Again, it's an educated guess from him, somebody who's not stupid, who has been around the block, who knows college athletics. But he thinks something might have shifted between middle of last week to now. And maybe Hunter Yurachek is kind of reflecting that in what he's telling boosters. I don't know that for sure. That's just a vibe thing. But like I said, we've got a ton of stuff on HawgSports that you can read. Some of the things that – so there's a lot of reports coming out right now that James Franklin was never involved. He's never a candidate, and that's not true at all. Okay, I don't know why that's getting pushed out suddenly, but it is. But what is true is that Arkansas, without a doubt, reached out to Franklin, without a doubt was working to put together stuff for Franklin. And without a doubt, Franklin was asking people who know about the inner workings of Arkansas Athletic Department, about the University of Arkansas, about personnel, all that kind of stuff. That happened. So any idea out there, any message that he was never a candidate is not true. I don't know why that's getting pushed out, but it's not true. Also, something that's not true, Ed Orgeron is not a candidate for this job. That is not true. I've seen that. People like just suddenly flooding me with that kind of stuff. There are coaches that are being interviewed. Jeff Traylor, absolutely interviewed. James Franklin, as I mentioned, was in the mix. Rhett Lashley was in the mix. He's not in the mix anymore either. I don't know if Franklin's going to end up at Florida or LSU or Florida State if it opens up, but it does feel like Virginia Tech. And something that was told to me kind of early in this was Virginia Tech was maybe like I don't want to say fallback. I don't think that's fair to say, but something that's going to be there, and kind of maybe see what all happens. There's also kind of talks about deadlines and all that kind of stuff. I know, don't mess with Jimmy Sexton like that. I wouldn't. He'll make you pay for it, make you look foolish. So anyway, I've got people who swear up and down that Kenny Dillingham's going to be the next coach. I mean, and I watched Kenny Dillingham. They're like, look at his press conference today, And I watched his press conference today, and he's like, he's talking about how much support he has from the fans. He talks about how much support he has from the university, but where they're lacking is NIL. They don't have the NIL that they need. And he talks about, businesses, like every business should have a sandwich named after one of their players, $500,000 a month NIL deal just for a sandwich. Like every restaurant should have, he's talking about all that stuff. So that is a pretty consistent narrative from Kenny Dillingham about not having the support totally that he needs. And in this case, especially an NIL standpoint. It's notable. And he makes a good point. Businesses thrive when the football team does well. So why would you want to support the football team by doing something like that? That's some of the stuff that we're hearing lately. I don't want to give away everything that we're hearing. Okay. I made a really good deal, 2 months for $1, the easiest way possible to sign up at HawgSports for very little money and check out what we have. Somebody was like, I put something out there and the guy was like, he goes, you expect me to sign up for your F and BS? I was like, only if your bitch ass wants to, man. I was just having fun with him, But anyway, people don't know, like, we have to do stuff like this to get people in because they don't recognize what we offer at HawgSports and all the work and, the tireless work that we do at HawgSports. We pour our soul into it. And one of the reasons we are one of easily the 10 largest sites in our entire network at Arkansas, which is not an easy feat, which blows a lot of people away that we're, have that many subscribers, is because we do deals like this. People come in and they're like, oh, all right. Okay. I see what's going on here. This is fun. This is entertaining. This is informative. We try to be all of those things. We try to be a model for our entire network on how to do things. Okay. I think I mentioned some of the guys have been talked about anyway. Hey, I want to say congrats to our folks over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. They had a big event that was a smashing success with David Uriman, who's a designer, and it went really well. So super happy for all of our friends over at Blakeman's. And I'd like to say this holiday season, you should shop for a meaningful gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Uriman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Okay. What next? Coaching search hot board. We can talk about that a little bit, some of the names that we've got on there. Based on what Hunter Yurachek is telling people anyway, the guy that fits probably at the top is probably, outside of like a power four sitting head coach, is probably John Sumrall. Checks a lot of boxes. Defensive-minded guy, has had success at 2 different programs, has coached in the SEC, which I think is vitally important. I would like to see somebody, now nobody's going to check every box, but I would like to see somebody who knows what it takes to win in this conference, the kind of players that you have to have in this conference. Sumrall makes a lot of sense. I know that Kane Womack is interested in the job. I don't know if Arkansas has reached out to Kane Womack, but I think it's a good chance that he would be one of those 8 if that Elite 8 is a real thing, because he checks a lot of boxes too. Went to Fayetteville High School, former walk-on at Arkansas. His dad was defensive coordinator at Arkansas. He understands what Arkansas is about. And some of the connection stuff that I think has been lost under Jeff Long, under Hunter Yurachek, what it means to be a Razorback, what binds this state together has been lost a little bit. So that makes sense in that regard. A lot of people say, well, he's just a coordinator. Well, I would say that Dan Lanning was just a coordinator, that Kirby Smart was just a coordinator. He's a coordinator at Alabama, which has a really good defense, obviously, and was a head coach. He was a head coach at South Alabama, which has a terrible short history. in football, and he won 10 games there, and then left there to go to Alabama. So I don't know. He's a guy. He's only 38 years old, up and coming type of coach. He's a guy that makes some sense, I think. Jay Hill, BYU defensive coordinator. There's a lot of talk that he has been absolutely interviewed and talked to. But he's a guy that has head coaching experience also. The thing with Jay Hill, he's never coached or played outside of the state of Utah. He was at Weber State. He was at Utah. He's at BYU now. But they've got a really good team, got a good defense. Maybe somebody consider Alex Golesh is a popular name. They just lost to Navy 41-38, so that was a tough blow for them right after blowing out UTSA, which Jeff Traylor, as I mentioned, is a candidate also. I don't know that Traylor would be the guy, but the thing I know about Traylor, and people are just going to look at that record 5-5, but they have performed worse and worse as NIL has become a thing because they don't have a roster that, I mean, their roster compared to some of the teams that they're playing is a joke. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean from a financial standpoint, it's not even close. They just do not have the same support that Tulane or Memphis or South Florida have. Jake Dickert is a newer name that I put on here. You know, he's at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is 7-3 this year. He's had success at two different programs, Washington State and Wake Forest now. This is just his first year, 7-3. He's only 42 years old, defensive-minded coach. I don't know. Maybe. Been a defensive coach at a lot of different places. Been a head coach for like 5 years and has a resume. Has a resume and is only 42. $4.8 million salary for him. I don't know. Tony Elliott's another name that's been discussed. They got a big win over Duke. They're in good chance to be in the ACC championship game. Eric Morris, out of all the G5 coaches that we've talked about, he's 9-1. Like, he's got the best record out of all of them, but for some reason he doesn't seem to generate a whole lot of interest from people. It's possibly due to his last name being Morris, even though there's no relation. But, I mean, they just keep on winning, keep on getting it done. So he's put together the best season out of all those guys. Bob Chesney's been talked about a lot. The thing with Chesney, he's never coached on the Power 5 level at all, but he's won everywhere he's been. I think he has, in 16 years as a head coach, I think he only has one losing season his first year at Holy Cross. I think they went 5-6. But every other year, I mean, he's got a really good resume as far as being a head coach and winning. Matt Entz at Fresno State, another guy maybe to keep an eye on. They're 7-3 this season. He was at North Dakota State, won national championships on the FCS level. Maybe Tyson Helton would be a guy to keep an eye on. He's at Western Kentucky. I mean, he's been winning there, been winning and winning. Jason Eck, New Mexico. I don't know, just a few guys. Will Stein, as I talked about earlier. Jason Eck at New Mexico been doing a lot of good things. So Ryan Silverfield. They keep losing. They've lost 3 now. They're pretty much out of any conference bid. Shiel Wood, Colin Klein. Shiel Wood's interesting too because he has been at like 5 different places the last 5 years and has put together just like an elite defense everywhere. Like if we're talking on the coordinator level. Anyway, just a few guys here and there. Okay. Should we go to Connor? Let's go to Connor now. Connor, if you're ready, give me a thumbs up. All right, there's the thumbs up. He's coming on just a hair early. If you haven't followed Connor, you can follow him at Connor Goodson on X and read all of his basketball coverage, football coverage, everything. And he joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline where you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. If you're looking for new internet service, you're disappointed with your old provider, I always say that they just have always worked for me, nice and steady, and never unplug my router. Several different tiers of internet service. I use the 2,500 megabits per second, which is their Gigabit Plus, which is outstanding speed. I think their 1,000 megabit per second plan, which is called their Gigabit, is probably good for most families. Good bandwidth, not gonna worry about speed or anything. But they offer several different tiers, and it is a local company. Reach out to them at 479-684-4900. I give it the Trey Biddy stamp of approval, along with our friend Connor Goodson and the work that he does over at HawgSports. How's it going, Connor?
What's up, Trey? Appreciate that stamp of approval. I got a couple of things for you before we jump into this. Matt Zenich just reported that the James Franklin to Virginia Tech is being finalized right now. So a little bit of breaking news. He just tweeted that out. So as you said, for a while now, you didn't expect James Franklin to be the head coach at Arkansas. It seemed like that was trending the other direction, and it looks like that is finalized now. And it looks like you struck a nerve with some of these people in the YouTube and Facebook comments with Camo, JW, Bobby. Some of these guys are a little upset that you can't completely expose a source close to the program.
Is that right?
Have to throw them under the bus here.
Yeah.
And give us all those juicy nuggets,
Yeah. Well, it just is what it is. Like, it's amazing that people want me to burn somebody like that gives us information. So, but that's what it is. I wish I could, if I could say a little bit more, like people would be like, oh, okay, that makes total sense.
We've reached the point in the coaching search where it's just like people are done. Like they're kind of they're tired of the games or whatever, the no news. And here's the thing: if you say there's not an update, people get mad. If you post an update of what you're hearing and it's still some of the same stuff because there hasn't been anything happening, people are going to get just as mad. And it's just like you're in a lose-lose situation at this point in the search. So it is what it is. There will be movement soon. People just calm down. Arkansas's working through it. It's different than other coaching searches because this is probably the longest ever that I can recall. Obviously, you would know more on that.
John Elwyn would have been the same, I guess. Yeah.
Just because it's mid-season, obviously there's not going to be an announcement made 2 weeks after a coach is fired mid-season. So there's a little bit longer here where people, I think, are just getting a little antsy and tired, and they start seeing some of these other dominoes fall, and that just gets them a little agitated. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we're looking at a couple of weeks here. 3 weeks. I would hope tops. I would hope if it goes longer than 3 weeks from now, then that could be trouble for Arkansas.
Yeah. I think that once we see some of these other, you've got to get to the end of the season to see kind of what's out there, and see kind of how some of these other dominoes fall and things like that. And you also want to do your due diligence and see if there are other guys that come available, see what other jobs, some of your guys that were interested, maybe looking for other jobs to come open. And you just kind of got to, take your time on some of these things and make sure you either have the right guy and B, that you have the timing right too. So,
yeah. Hey, shout out to our friends over at the Virginia Tech site. Also, they did a great job covering this story. I do think that Arkansas was in talks with James Franklin, but something happened at some point, obviously, like it tends to, and it just didn't become a reality. But our Virginia Tech site, those guys were on the story from the get-go and led those people down the right path. So anybody that's out there that's a Virginia Tech fan listening, just know that those guys were on top of it from the beginning. So good job by our Virginia Tech site. Now, if we can get some more intel on the Arkansas side of things, that would be good. But we have done a pretty good job, I feel like, of guiding people where Arkansas wants to be in terms of revenue, in terms of the budget for football, their plans, and kind of what Yurachek is telling people, but we don't have that name yet. I do think Franklin was in the mix. We've talked about some of the guys that have been interviewed that we know have been interviewed, but Arkansas they haven't zeroed in on that guy, or at least it hasn't been made public yet. What are your thoughts on it, Connor?
Yeah, I think that I think that I feel like a lot of people are just discrediting some legitimate coaches that are being thrown out there just because they haven't had that chance at a big time job. I see a lot of people saying that's like, you've got to go out and you've got to hire a proven guy who's a bona fide stud and who has that experience at a group or at a Power 4 school, having success at a Power 4 school. That's the thought process that all 20 some odd jobs that are open right now. That's the same thought process for all of them. So it's like, you're not going to be able to, not everyone's going to have a proven bona fide, the next Nick Saban type of hire in this cycle. You're just not, when there's so many jobs that are open. And we've talked at length about where Arkansas kind of stands in that tier ranking of open jobs.
But that doesn't
I think
Arkansas is going to be willing to pay.
Right.
They've got, from what I understand, they seem to have things marching in the right direction to be able to finance and pay a coach and give him the support that he needs. And they should be able to attract a quality candidate with that.
Exactly.
They're not going to attract a candidate that everybody's going to be happy with. That person just doesn't exist. Bobby Petrino was probably the last guy that Arkansas got, and everybody was just like, whoa, Bobby P. But, he had done tremendous things at Louisville before taking the Atlanta Falcons job. If that doesn't happen, like, Arkansas wasn't just going to hire him from Louisville to come to Arkansas. That probably wasn't going to happen. But the fact that he went to the NFL, didn't like what was going on, and was looking for an out, and there was Arkansas, that worked out, pretty well. The Brett Bielema hire was the biggest hire in college football that year. That was viewed as the number one hire. But Arkansas fans were still, miffed by it a little bit, or upset. They didn't know, Big Ten guy. And I guess maybe they were right long term. But at the time, it was viewed as a really big hire. So whoever this hire is probably going to be met with some frustration. But I've said this many a times. It's how we feel 365 days, 730 days, so on and so forth about this hire. And a lot of the guys that Arkansas fans want, and not everybody's universal on it, but a lot of the guys that they want, they would have turned their nose up at them 3 years ago. They would have laughed. And I go back and look at some of the coaching search hot boards, the older ones I have. I've got Mike Elko on coaching search, like 2 different coaching search hot boards that I'd done in the past. And nobody would have taken Mike Elko as defensive coordinator at Texas A&M when he held that job. And then I had him when he was at Duke, on another one. So it's going to be hard to satisfy everybody. But Petrino made a really good point today. He's like, "You kidding? 9 conference games now? Like, there's going to be a lot of buyout money in this conference coming up."
Yeah, it's gonna be a gauntlet, and it's gonna be a challenge for whoever takes the job. Not, like you said, not everyone's gonna be perfect, make everyone happy, but as long as the funding and the support is there, then whoever this hire turns out to be, they should have that squared away to where they're not, there's not the excuse of, well, they didn't get all the support that they needed to compete. So at least that sounds like it, which is the most important part, in my opinion, of this whole equation, is getting that straightened out and getting everyone going, marching at the beat of one drum and the same drum. So that at least is a positive development and gives me a little bit of hope moving forward.
What's going on with this basketball team, Connor? Like, obviously a uninspired performance against Samford. It's not getting a lot of production from the post.
No, that's I think one of the more disappointing aspects of this team. I think it's 2 points and 1 rebound combined for Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle, which is unacceptable. I know Ewan only played 8 minutes, so you can't really pin that on him a ton, but he didn't look great other than that chase down block in those 8 minutes. So, you really need a lot more from those 2 guys if Arkansas is going to even get close to reaching their potential this season. And I'm kind of disappointed in some of the things that I've seen, some of the ways that they've, not utilized them, I guess. You'd like to see a little bit more ball screen action for those guys. And there's an aspect of, it's early in the season. You don't want to, waste every bullet in the chamber on a 4-game stretch against mid-major teams that you should have no trouble beating. But I expected to see a lot more sets and actions from them, utilizing those bigs and ball screens. And because Malik Ewan, he's a really good skilled handler. He can put the ball on the floor. He's a really good passer. Nick Pringle is a roller, especially at that dunker spot, man. He's really, really talented. You'd like to see them utilize a little bit more of those guys' strengths to try to get them going and see if those are the buttons that you can really push.
Did Ewan just forget how to play basketball? I mean,
I don't think so.
He averaged 14.2 points a game and 7.6 rebounds at Florida State last year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him right now is just the energy. The motor's not where one it needs to be, and two where the coaching staff really wants it. And so you've got Cal and the assistants got to figure out what button they can push to really get him to really light that fire. And for some guys, it's just different. It's just different for what motivates them and what gets them going. And I think that with Ewan, maybe giving him, throwing him a bone with like, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to, you're going to run pick and roll with Darius and DJ, and we're just going to spam it as much as we can to get you going. We got to get you in those ball screens and let you make the decisions, and kind of maybe it's that, maybe it's, maybe the lack of minutes, only playing 8 minutes last week against Samford. Maybe that's something that maybe gets him going. You just got to figure that out because, like you said, 14.7 rebounds last year. It wasn't a great Florida State team, but he's shown he's capable playing against, superior talent of really making a difference. And you're not getting that right now. You haven't gotten it all season. So got to get him going. And you also got to get Pringle and those guys going to really get this team up to reaching that ceiling and where they can go. You still have everything that we talked about. Sorry, I'm wrapping up, but everything is still out in front of them. Everything that they can accomplish, the potential that they can reach that we talked about in the offseason, everything is still there. You just got to start showing bigger flashes of that. We see it here and there. You just got to see longer stretches of what this team can be moving forward. But I still think they still have everything out in front of them from what the expectations we had coming in.
All right, Connor, appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate those takes. And Connor's a cheap date too. You can check out his stuff at HawgSports. Read all his basketball coverage, everything he brings to football. Again, 2 months for $1 right now at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. So heck of a deal. Go check us out at HawgSports. Check out Connor's stuff. Appreciate you, bud.
Appreciate you, Trey.
All right, everybody. Connor Goodson at Connor Goodson on X. I mean, I didn't even want to talk about this because we just got obliterated last week. We're still 31-27-3 overall on Bet Saracen. Bet Saracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app, but we took a hit again. Like after we got our stuff together last week, we went 4-1. All right, we're trending back in the right direction because we started off really strong, hit a lull. We went 1-4 last week. We lost the Arkansas game because we picked LSU to cover -5.5, and they didn't. So we lost that one. We had the team right, but we didn't have the line right. Took Alabama at home at -5.5. That was a huge win for Oklahoma in Tuscaloosa. We took Ole Miss by 14.5. They only won by 10. We took Georgia against Texas, and we won that one. That was our one win. Georgia won 35-10 over Texas. And then we picked we took Mississippi State. We took Mississippi State, and Missouri blew their doors off 49-27. They were only a 7-point. Missouri was a 7-point road favorite. So 1-4. That was a tough one. But check out our friends over at Bet Saracen for all your sports betting.
Arkansas's favorite sports stars explain what they like most about Bet Saracen.
Bet Saracen is not only Arkansas's top sports betting app, it's also the 13th largest in the nation.
Darren McFadden, and there's a serious plow horse. No wonder Jerry liked him.
Check out this Bet Saracen promo.
Place $5 or more parlays, and if yours rank among the top winning odds, score your share of $50,000.
Darren McFadden, there's a plow horse for you. No wonder Jerry liked him. Okay, where are my questions here? There they are. Okay. All right, I'm going to take your questions now. Gateway Hall, we're just going to do a few more of these. I got to wrap up here, but Gateway Hog says, Trey, is this coaching search as bad of a shape as some think it is? I don't know. I guess we'll see who the hire is. I mean, there's still all the candidates are out there except for James Franklin. So we'll see. We'll see who the hire is. I mean, during the basketball coaching search, there was a lot of, misdirection and stuff. And we talked about Chris Beard, being a guy that Arkansas wanted, which they, that was all real. But nobody really saw John Calipari coming. Now, John Tyson isn't coming to bring in a John Calipari for football, but I think they do have enough support from people. And it's not just the, the names that you hear all the time. There are a lot of other people in this state who are doing well, that want to support the football team, people that want to, donate more, that want to, come up with long-term plans to get things in order for this program to be on good financial footing where they can continue to support the football program for years and years. So it does feel like people understand the sense of urgency to get things in order by now for whatever's coming in 2030, which could be conference realignment, which could be, new TV deals obviously will be that, which could be, private equity, could be just about anything, coming in 2030. I don't know what all's coming down the line, but they seem to think that is a big target date. Devin Hart says, what's the money situation like, and does it matter if the hire is who the hire is if we'll have the roughly 40 mil? What? I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm just not sure what you're saying. Liven Guy says, Trey, has there been coaching rumor that has made you, I'm not sure what this word is, over how ridiculous it is. Also, how are you holding up with the search? Are you taking care of yourself? No, I don't. I don't sleep like as much, but it's just part of it. Like, I also enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably could be taking better care of myself, but also enjoying, the search. It's not hard work. We just work hard at it. Danny West says. Is there a rumor that made me feel that way? No, there hasn't been one yet. Nothing too extraordinary that's made me just like, I'm going to have to Google this word. Okay. The word was chortle. It's fine, apparently. Laugh in a breathy, gleeful way. Chuckle. Chortle. It just sounded, he asked if there's been something that's made me chortle. I thought I'd heard the word before. Albuquerque Hog says, we realize you can't say, but do you think you know who they are targeting? Do you have an idea of who the candidate is? No, I don't, in fact. We have the coaching search hot board. We know some of the parameters, the requirements that they're looking for with this person, but as of today, no. I would say I do not know who the next coach at Arkansas is going to be. I have some ideas. I mentioned all that in our coaching search hot board, but no. Hog Jackets 1 said, you said in your most recent head coach update that BP is not happening. You confirming BP is out. I mean, some of the stuff I heard today sounded like maybe he's not out, but I don't think that that's happening. No, I feel like they needed to have a better showing on offense in some of these games late and needed to pull out some wins. If it comes to a situation where Arkansas is like, we're going to promote this coordinator, then I don't know that I'm against Petrino being the guy. I don't like the idea that some people have said give him the job for like 3 years. I want the idea, or at least the approach, that we're going to bring in somebody that's going to be a long-term solution for this program, that's going to be able to recruit, going to be able to bring in and have support from advanced scouting departments to work this transfer portal the way that it needs to be worked for Arkansas to have success. You've got to be able to identify talent. And Arkansas did a really poor job at that this past year. Some of the guys are good additions, obviously, but particularly on defense, there were just a lot of misses for Arkansas. TSS Smith 0628 says, are we trending toward another Sam Pittman type of hire? Starting to feel that way. I don't think that's where this is going. If something like that were to happen and it's like, okay, Arkansas is hiring, a position coach that nobody else is pursuing, I don't think that would be well received at all. This is a very important hire for Arkansas. It's something that they have to get right. I mean, it's just the way it is. Big DC 77 says, give the job to Sumrall and call it done. Well, yeah, I would take John Sumrall. If somebody said John Sumrall's the coach, I would say, okay, let's move along now. But I just think that he's going to have a lot of options. Swinging for Lashley and Franklin and striking out sounds like Hunter. I mean, there were a lot of influential people that wanted Lashley to be the guy. And, ultimately for him, it's, his family, his kids, wanting them to graduate from high school. The coaching life is difficult. It is a difficult deal with so much moving around and your kids and your wife, and, you lose out on so many long-term. It's easier now because, it's easier to keep up with people, but man, it's tough on kids. It is a tough life. And I don't blame Lashley for wanting to, stay in one place and hopefully let us get, and plus he got a lot of money to stay there. Jacob Degar says, T. Biddy, how big of an NIL budget will Saban have here? Owen Moore says, when do you anticipate we will have a good idea who the next coach is? Well, I would hope in the next 2 weeks. I mean, I think we're close, right? We got to be. If it doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks, then we run into that cycle where it's just a madhouse. Now, somebody asked this question, like with the timing on things, like if Arkansas were to hire, say, a coordinator, then say it's, I don't know, the coordinator, say it's Schumann at Georgia. If they were to hire him, then that would be announced even during their run in the college football playoff. That's the same way it happened with Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, everybody knew that his next stop was Oregon while he was defensive coordinator at Georgia. You know what I mean? So if it's a coach who's in the college football playoff, which very unlikely, but it's possible with some of the G5 coaches, that would not be announced. If it's the head coach leading a team in the college football playoff, that would not be announced until after that was done. Hogzilla says, TB, give me something to be hopeful for. Well, I mean, I do think that financially Arkansas has done a lot of good work in terms of raising the profile of Arkansas football from a financial standpoint. I do feel like whoever the next coach is going to have a lot better budget, a lot more support than what Sam Pittman had. And, part of that Sam Pittman's, like you can say, well, he wasn't supported, it wasn't his fault, but people weren't willing to support Pittman. They just could not raise money around the idea of Sam Pittman. So that's why they had to move on. I mean, Kay Clem says, circling back around last week, do you feel as if from – it's a long question. I'm not sure. This is such a long question. I don't want to we got to keep these a little bit more concise, so I don't have just a bunch of dead air. Hogtalica says Arkansas needs to make a statement, hire John Sumrall. If they let Sumrall go to Auburn and Arkansas, which I've been hearing since before Hugh Freeze was fired. I'd heard Sumrall in Auburn, which maybe makes that not happen. If they let Sumrall go to Auburn and Arkansas hires Kane Womack, then they have given up on football and nothing has changed. It's pretty harsh against Kane Womack. Hogtalica says, do you think Ryan Silverfield is interested in the Arkansas job? And is Arkansas interested in him? I think that there's probably been some interest, but Silverfield, they've lost 3 games this year, so it's not like this is a guy that's, going to have a 10-win season when Arkansas hires him. And he's not a guy that generated a whole lot of interest from Arkansas fans. Like, it's interesting how, like people really like Golish. People really like Sumrall. But Eric Morris doesn't seem to generate, and Eric Morris has a better record than all of them this year. And Silverfield, when he was coming off, like he's had the most success over the last, few years at Memphis than any of those guys. Well, Summerall's had a lot of success. He was at Troy too, but he's right there, but people don't seem as interested in him. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is the coaching search going? I mean, I can't answer that until we're at the end. Like, I can't answer it till it's at the end. Hog Tallis says, I like the Keys songs you play in your videos. It's upbeat. That's not the Keys. Yeah, it is. That's the Keys. That's right. Isn't it? Yeah, that's the Keys. It's upbeat when it's paired with an angry walk and talk. Reminds me of the scene in Rocky when Paulie has a breakdown rant while Silent Night plays in the background. Arcog 501 says, what is the confidence level? Hunter Yurachek making a great hire. 6. I don't know. I feel like he has the resources he needs. It's just like, here's the thing. Like, I don't know that anybody that they hire, people are just going to be like, nailed it. Like, universally. Like, some people will wrap their minds around it. They'll get on board with it. Some people will be very upset. Some people will be very excited. You're just not going to get what you pretty much had, not universally, but like 1984 presidential election where, everybody but Minnesota was on board. You know what I mean? You're not going to have that like it was with Bobby Petrino when he was hired. Because the odds are you're not going to hire a coach that, just went 12-1 and went 11-2 before that. You know what I mean? T. Bidness, this is from West Hog 21. I noticed Summerall's name being brought up more recently. He does fit what we're talking about, but again, he's going to be interested, from a lot of people, as well as being the first name on your hot board list. That's why he's there, because he just checks the most boxes to me right now. It doesn't mean that he's the guy. I just feel like he checks the most boxes based on, what Hunter Yurachek has told people. Do I like Arkansas's chances? I like Auburn's chances. I thought that ship had sailed. I don't know if it's sailed, but I like Auburn's chances more. Joshua 11 says, T-Bird, can you explain why fans resent Kane Womack? I don't know. I've said this before. If Kane Womack was defensive coordinator at Alabama, and then he took the South Alabama head coaching job and, won, what did he do? 10 wins, 7 wins, which is far and away beyond anything that anybody else had done there. If he had done that in that order, I think more people would be receptive to it. But the fact that he did that and then went to Alabama as defensive coordinator, it's interesting to me. Because he seems like a guy that you can get behind, like from an energy standpoint. I've watched his press conference and stuff. I don't see how it's different than, hiring other guys that were defensive coordinators. And he was defensive coordinator at Indiana when they were having success there. Not the success they're having now, but having success. He was with DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer was OC at Indiana. He was defensive coordinator at Indiana. And DeBoer went from there, and got the Washington. Well, DeBoer went somewhere else and then got the Washington head coach job and then Alabama job. Anti says, Trey, please put the Gus rumors to bed. I don't have Gus on my coaching search hot board, but I can't eliminate that right now. Man of Squeal, what are your thoughts on Hunter Yurachek possibly wanting a defensive-minded head coach over an offensive coach? I think that model has worked for coaches, for programs. I mean, it working at Oregon. It works for Alabama under Saban. It works for Georgia. Working for Oklahoma right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's worked for programs. Yes, I've heard Bob Chesney's name mentioned. Okay. Whiskey Drunk says, if James Franklin was not the number 2 target, who do you believe was? I do think that James Franklin was a target. I would have Summerall way up the list. I've said that since the very start of this, that Summerall would be like, somebody asked me, like, who would you take right now amongst, this group of Summerall. I think he's going to be a really good coach. I felt that way for a long time. I also think Golish could be a good coach. I think Golish has a lot of good qualities. I think there's a lot of things that make sense there with him. Luke Hogchick says, Luca Hogchick, excuse me, says he wants to be aggressive and just go after Eric Morris. Why aren't the Hogs interviewed out? I think they probably have, Marcus. I don't have like the full picture. Like we're putting puzzle pieces together, So I think that they probably have interviewed Alex Golish. Where does the Arkansas job rank in the order of all the open jobs? There's Penn State, there's Florida, there's LSU. That's not in order. It'd be LSU, Florida, Penn State at the top. I would think that Arkansas probably, and then Auburn also, right there in the mix. I don't know if there's a whole bunch separating those programs aside from LSU. I think LSU is the best job. Somewhere after that. I think there's probably a group. Arkansas, I think, is a better job than Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech doesn't have to play those 4 schools that I just mentioned and programs of that ilk all the time. They just don't. So how serious is the Will Stein talk? I just know he's a candidate. I believe he's a candidate from pretty good source. It's not a verified, like some of those interviews aren't 100% verified. Like James Frank, Jeff Traylor, very confident that he was one of the guys interviewed. And I believe Will Stein very, very likely. No, I wouldn't say Bobby's been 100% eliminated from the job. I don't think you can 100% eliminate him unless they already have their guy and they're just not saying anything. All right, everybody. 2 months for $1. Pretty sweet deal. Yeah, sign up. Why would you not sign up? If you like what we do on HawgSports, if you like what we do on everything else that we do, heck, on Drive Time, on The Zone, on Morning Mayhem with Danny, like all the stuff that we do out there, all the stuff we put out for free, the best stuff that we have and the stuff that we keep up to date and current, the people that we take care of the most every day is on HawgSports, HawgSports.com. It's 2 months for $1. We don't do Patreon. We don't do super chats and stuff. We're asking for $1 for 2 months to sign up and get the best Razorback coverage that you're going to get. If you're a casual fan or something, I can understand just, going through Twitter and following the rumors and all that kind of stuff. If you want, good information that's really well researched, that people pour their heart into, try to cut out all the crap, where we're available to people all the time, $1, guys, sign up. And we're going to hook you that way. Like, make no mistake, like I'm going to get you. You're going to sign up for $1 and you're going to love what you see and you're going to stick around. And the good thing about that is after 2 months is over and you've got 2 months for $1, we're going to let you have Paramount Plus for free. That's $100 value. So you're basically getting either HawgSports for free or Paramount for free. Paramount Plus and Showtime combined, the good package. It's a pretty sweet deal. All right, sign up, HawgSports. Appreciate Connor Goodson for hopping on with us. Appreciate everybody's questions. Thanks to all of our sponsors, of course. Please support those folks since they also support us. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday.